Hello, my sexy listeners. I'm ThatPodcastGirl C Dub, and this is a podcast about house music. Let me take you somewhere tonight. It's a Saturday, not morning yet. That thing after morning where the light hasn't figured out what it wants to be. You're standing in a record shop, not browsing, waiting. The man behind the counter is watching your face while the needle drops on something he hasn't told you the name of yet. And the kick lands and something shifts in your chest. And you don't say anything because you don't need to. He already sees it. He pulls the sleeve from under the counter and slides it towards you like a secret. That was the whole thing. That moment was the whole thing. That search had geography, it had weather, it had train rides and phone calls and handwritten track IDs, unfolded pieces of paper that you kept in your coat. It had standing there with headphones pressed to your ears, heart doing that beating thing, nobody naming it yet. Before digital files filled the booth, discovery lived in physical places. Then the map changed. In 2000, Kevin Lewandowski built something that looked from the outside like a database. Discogs started as an archive for electronic music. But what it really was, and what it became, was a memory, a living one, a place where the credits could be corrected, the aliases finally connected, the white labels identified, the forgotten pressing traced back to a person and a session and a year. House music is full of hidden lines. One producer under 5 names, one vocalist uncredited on a remix that became bigger than the original. One dub that circulated for a decade before anyone pinned down who made it. Discogs didn't make the music easier to feel, it made it easier to follow. That's a different kind of gift, and don't underestimate it. Meanwhile, the booth was changing shape. DJs were moving toward laptops and CDJs and digital files, and the music they actually played, the underground stuff, the stuff with feeling in it, was almost impossible to buy cleanly. You might find it on LimeWire. You might find a mislabeled rip that sounded like it had been recorded through a wall of a dorm. You might find a version that cut off before the outro. You might find a folder with someone's initials and nothing else. A file you couldn't identify until you played it on a system loud enough to matter. Eloy Lopez asked a question that sounds obvious now and wasn't obvious at all then. Why can't we buy the music we love digitally? That question became Beatport. Jonas Temple, Eloy Lopez, and Bradley Roulier launched it out of Denver in 2004, a store built for DJs with genre filtering, label filtering, charts, release dates, and these bins never closed. The shipment could arrive while you were home in your pajamas. A record could go from label to folder to booth inside a week. The crate had suddenly become searchable. And I want to sit with that just for a second, because it sounds like pure progress. It was in some ways, but something else was also happening. Discovery was becoming visible. A chart wasn't just a list. It was evidence. A DJ could see what everyone else was buying. A label could see what moved. The record shop had trained DJs through scarcity. You could only buy what reached you. The digital archive was training DJs through something else entirely. Abundance. Which sounds like freedom and sometimes is and sometimes isn't. TrackSource knew the difference. Brian Tappert and Mark Pomeroy of Jazz and Groove, Sulfuric, Soul Searcher, Urban Blues Project, names that mean something if you know, you know. And if you're listening to this podcast, I know you know. Those two helped build TrackSource as a home for real house music in the digital marketplace. The language was deliberate. Real house music. Soulful, deep, vocal, Afro house, garage-leaning records, music that still carried the fingerprints of singers, arrangers, bass lines, gospel chords, and rooms where the groove needed to breathe. Beatport could feel like an airport terminal. Huge, moving, all signs and categories, every genre sitting next to every other genre, like they're the same distance from the door. TrackSource felt closer to the shop, not because it was small, but because someone behind the counter still knew what you meant when you asked for something with feeling in it. Those were two different philosophies, but both were necessary. One was teaching the algorithm, and one was protecting the lineage. Then the blogs happened, and everything got loud and intimate at the same time. Anthony Volodkin was a student in New York in 2005. Frustrated by how slow magazines and radio were moving compared to what he was reading online. MP3 blogs were posting actual songs, not writing around music, actually sharing it. He built Hype Machine to index those blogs, turn scattered posts into a single live feed of what people were actually talking about. For dance music, this mattered because discovery went social again, even when nobody was in the same room. One track could travel through a write-up and a download link and a MySpace repost and a forum thread and a DJ chart and a comment section and land in a folder in Brooklyn and a warm-up set in Berlin and then a sunrise somewhere nobody had photographed. Artists built pages that were part resume, part demo, part diary. You could hear the song, see the network, feel the weight of who else had found the thing. The record shop had a door policy, but the internet didn't have one. Then SoundCloud changed the texture of all of it again. Alexander Young and Eric Walforce founded it in Berlin in 2007. And what it started as, a tool for creators to share audio easily, is not what it became. For producers, it became something more intimate than a store and faster than a press campaign. A sketch could go public before it had a name. A remix could circulate before it had official clearance. And a DJ mix could move without a CD, without a label, and without anyone else's permission. And there was that little waveform. That little orange waveform trained people to look at music differently. You could see the drop before you heard it. You could see where the crowd might react, and you could leave a comment right at the moment the bass line changed. A timestamp, a feeling, a fragment of all caps that meant it was right here. This is the part that I felt too. The track became a place. No sound system shaking your chest, but still a room built from links and reposts and follows and the strange intimacy of seeing who else had found the same thing at 2 a.m. in the morning. By the end of the 2000s, the shape of the DJ's crate had transformed completely. Discogs held the memory, Beatport organized the marketplace, TrackSource protected a house music lane, Hype Machine followed the blogs, MySpace then connected the artists, and SoundCloud let the music move before the industry finished naming it. Each platform changed the shape of taste, but here's the thing none of them could change. When everyone has access to more music than any one person could play in a lifetime, taste becomes visible in a new way. It's no longer enough to have the record. The question is, what do you do with the record once everyone else can have it too? Do you chase the chart? Do you trust the label? Do you follow the vocalist? Do you dig backward through the credits? Do you listen past the preview? A chart can tell you what's moving, and a database can tell you who made it. None of it can tell you why your hand keeps going back to that one track at 2 o'clock in the morning. None of it can tell you why one bass line makes the room lean forward and another one only fills the air. That job is still the DJ's work. That is still the listener's work. That is the part of house music that lives in the space between information and feeling, and no platform has ever touched it, and I don't believe one ever will. The danger of the digital crate was that it could make everything feel available and nothing feel earned. The gift was that it let people hear across distance. A kid far from the record shop could find a label from Chicago. A singer could upload a demo without waiting for a gatekeeper. A forgotten pressing could finally be identified, and a name buried in tiny print could be connected at last to the sound people had loved for years without knowing who to thank. The crate got lighter, but the responsibility got heavier. That trade is still being negotiated, every set with every selection, with every moment you reach for the thing that moves you instead of the thing that moved the chart. So, I want to hear from you if you came up during any of these eras, with the blogs, Beatport, TrackSource. I know a lot of you know SoundCloud and MySpace. I'd love for you to email me at ThatPodcastGirl C Dub at gmail.com. Talk to me about this era of your life. I'm That Podcast Girl C Dub, and this is a podcast about house music. Until next time, keep the beats alive.